told me one day, he said, you know, if we ever end up getting married, you're going to meet the queen. What do you mean I'll meet the queen? And he said, my family has a royal title. I thought super romantic.
So you met him in February, and in March he needed money.
Yes.
Okay. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. That's
The Buzz, where we cover social media chaos, true crime stories, trending topics, and all the wild internet situations people somehow get themselves into. Today's story is one the internet has officially labeled the Danish Deception. And, yeah, the name fits a little too well. Chapter 1. The vacation meet-cute that should have stayed in Croatia. So our girl Anyeka, yes, the Nigerian-American woman from The Bachelorette, is on vacation in Croatia. She's relaxing, living life, minding her business. Then she meets this tall, blonde, blue-eyed Danish guy who approached her like he was sent from central casting for European love interest. And the man came prepared with a storyline. He tells her he's Danish. Fine. Then he upgrades himself to royalty, claims he's from a royal family. And because one lie wasn't enough, he adds that he's also an Olympic athlete. No medals, no proof, no photos, just vibes and confidence. Forward romance. The relationship takes off quickly. There are luxury trips, fancy hotels, Monaco, Saint-Tropez, the whole Instagram highlight reel lifestyle. And before you can say slow down, they end up getting married. Small ceremony, fast timeline, very convenient for someone trying to lock in the storyline before it falls apart. Acts show up. Soon after, things stop adding up. His royal family? Nothing to back it up. His Olympic career? No records anywhere. His job? Foggy. His life story? Changing every week. Then the financial problems enter the chat, allegedly tied to gambling and debts he never mentioned up front. Chapter 4. The money requests. Once he had her emotionally invested, the money talk started. First, small amounts, then larger, then much larger. She borrowed from friends, her family, even her sister, and the total allegedly ended up over $500,000. $500,000. Gone to a man who claimed he was a prince but couldn't prove he even had a regular job. The exit. And when everything finally caught up, he disappeared. No explanations, no closure, just vanished, leaving her with debt, embarrassment, and a story most people wouldn't believe if it wasn't documented. The takeaway. If someone claims they're royalty and an Olympian, and they magically have no proof of either, you're not dealing with a fairy tale. You're dealing with a scammer who knows how to talk. This has been the Danish Deception, and you're watching Social Talk with a Buzz, where we break down the stories so you don't end up starring in one.
Somebody trying to relive their 5 minutes of fame.
I am a very nice person. If you are going to come at me, I can come at you 10 times harder, and I can say some things to tear you down.
She's not a good person. I don't trust her intentions. I know you can do so much better. And I'm here for you with the most genuine intentions, and I really, really hope that you can see that.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm so pissed. I feel like Nicole should have spent today defending what she said and said she had to bring me down.
We were at the table. It was me, Mike, and Christina. And when your name did come up, Mike's like, she's got a really cool vibe, but she's not really my type. But maybe you should go talk to Mike. Go talk to Kevin. Go talk to whoever you don't feel is coupled up in this moment, because I do want you to have a connection, but I'm also real. I don't want you to have a forced connection. So I'm not going to sit here and beg. If you have something like compelling in your heart that you want to give it to someone else, I'll respect that.
Yeah. I just feel like I've been passed by every person here. I know I'm an awesome person. Why don't the guys think I'm awesome?
I've been here for how long? I haven't had a single romantic connection. I'm like questioning why I'm here. Anyone here that's interested in me, please let me know. Like, literally, is there anyone?
Dude, I hate seeing you cry.
The Danish Deception, Part 1. Okay, so it all started in June of 2022. I was in a place in my life where I was working 2 jobs. I was working like a dog, and I knew I needed a break. So I reached out to my friend, Sarah, who was living in Germany at the time with her husband. And I said, let's take a trip. Let's go somewhere in Europe. And she was so down. And we were trying to decide where we wanted to go. And we decided to go to Hvar, Croatia, because we wanted somewhere that was like a cute local town that was by the water, but it wouldn't be as crazy busy as other places in Europe. And so we decided to go to Hvar. We flew to Split first, met there, took a ferry over, And at first I was just so amazed at how beautiful this place was. And so the first night I was a little bit jet lagged. So we kept it very chill, grabbed dinner, then went back to our Airbnb. And the next morning when we woke up, we had literally 2 things on our agenda, and that was to eat and drink and be by the water. And well, I guess that's 3 things, but yeah, eat, drink, and be by the water. So we went to Hula Hula, which if you've been to Havar, you've been to Hula Hula. It's this beach club that's very well known there, and it's right on the water. And we're laying in day beds kind of off to the side, minding our own business, sipping mojitos. And I look up and I see this very attractive man. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this man looks like he is walking straight out of a Calvin Klein ad. And I'm telling you guys, 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, chiseled skin, so tan, muscles everywhere. I was definitely taken aback, and I feel like it takes a lot for me to really double take a man just based on his looks like that. And 100%, I was a little bit just in awe. I didn't even realize that he was like with a friend at first. And so I'm still minding my own business, keeping it chill. And he looks over at me and he says, "How are the drinks?" And I said, "The drinks are wonderful. We're just sipping mojitos." He said, "Should I get us all around?" And I said, "Absolutely. Number 1, he's cute. Number 2, who wouldn't want a free mojito?" So I said yes. We got a round of drinks and we're sipping our drinks, and we just start small talking. And I asked them where they're from, and they say that they're both from Denmark. My ex was living in Copenhagen, and then his friend was living in a smaller town called Aalborg, which is north of Copenhagen, and that was actually my ex's hometown, that his friend was still living there. And so we were just small talking the whole time. We didn't really talk about a whole lot of things. It was just like, "Where are you from?" and just basic things. But they were asking us, "What's your plan for the rest of the trip?" And we told them, we're doing a full day boat excursion tomorrow, and then we're going to dinner tonight at this place called Dalmatino. And he said, "Oh, how's the dinner spot?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I got recommended by a friend to go there." And he was like, "Okay, well, maybe we'll meet up with you guys again later." And I said, "Sure." So we're getting a little bit tired, so we decided that it's time for us to leave. And so as we're leaving, I decide to make a bold move and just ask him for his Instagram. And obviously I'm trying to be a little sly, so I asked him and his friend for their Instagrams, and we exchange Instagrams. We get into our taxi to go back to our Airbnb, and we're literally en route to our Airbnb, and I get a DM from him, and he basically said, "It was so nice meeting you. Have fun at Dalmatino. Maybe we'll see you guys later." Didn't read anything into it. I just was like, it was fun to just have a conversation with a cute guy. And so we go back to our Airbnb, we get dressed, we get ready for dinner, and we're like on our way to dinner, and he is like messaging me about the restaurant and asking us details about it. I didn't like think anything of it. But we sit down, we're having dinner, we have a spectacular dinner, and we're finishing off the evening with our desserts, AKA espresso martinis. And I'm sipping my drink, and I look up and I see him and his friend at the restaurant. And they walk up over to us, and I'm like, "Oh, hey." He's like, "Yeah, like they're a little booked up, but they said they can like seat us in like 20 minutes. I was like, "Oh, cool. Well, we're about to be done, but we'll go grab a drink. Maybe we can like meet up later." And he said, "Okay, sounds good." So it was kind of awkward timing because we were finishing up dinner while they like hadn't even been sat yet. And so we went to a bar across the street, and we were grabbing drinks, and I just like, I hit a wall, and I was like, okay, now I need to go to sleep. And I was super jet lagged. And so I sent him a DM just basically saying, "Hey, we are so tired. We have a full boat excursion tomorrow. I don't think we're going to stay out much later." And he was like, "That's totally fine." And so the next day we wake up, we get on the boat, and I start obviously posting like all my cute photos. Like, remember I took a photo driving the boat, and like we were just, having fun. And I was like looking at my Instagram story, and I see he's like hearting every single story, and like he's responded to a couple of them. I am not the type of person that reads very much into activity on social media like that, but it was something that I noticed. And so, we continued on with that for like a day and a half. And then he reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, like, what are you guys doing?" And at this time, it is our last night in Havar. And he said, "What are you guys doing tonight?" And I said, "We don't really have plans because we didn't." And he said, "Well, do you guys want to come to dinner with us?" And me and my friend were like, "Absolutely, sure." And she wasn't really down to go. I kind of forced her because I was like, this guy's hot and it's a free dinner. Like, let's just go. It'll be fun. And so she's a good friend. So she came with me and we get to the restaurant and him and his friend are sitting across from each other. So obviously I took the seat next to him. I was sitting across from my friend and we're sitting there. We're having a wonderful dinner and drinking tons of wine. And I come up with this idea to play this game where I'm asking his best friend to describe what my ex's type was. And because we were obviously like vibing with each other and I was just curious. And so his best friend starts listing off everything like good morals, hard worker, all these things. And like, I felt like he was describing me. And after his friend was done talking, my best friend basically said, you know, aside from being a good cook, she checks off every single box. And I remember I looked at him, my ex, and I said, but I will become a great cook for a good man. And he starts laughing. I remember I put my hand on his leg, and that was the first time in my life that I felt that instant electricity from someone's touch. Like it literally felt like I was getting shocked. And we instantly like had this physical attraction towards each other. And we started talking about what we did for work. And I told him that I was working as a real estate agent and in tech. And then he told me, I'm actually chief commercial officer for a ad tech company that does marketing for real estate companies. So I was working in real estate and tech and he was working in real estate and tech, and everything just like felt like it was aligning. But again, I'm like, this guy lives in Copenhagen. There's nothing that's gonna come from this. So after dinner, we go and grab some drinks at a bar nearby, and we grabbed one drink, and they're definitely gearing up to go back out. And it was our last night, and my friend really did not want to go out. And I am not the type of a girl to ever leave my friend for a man, never in a million years. So I ended up just saying, hey, I think we're gonna call it a night and we're gonna head out. And he was respectful of that 100%. And I remember we just hugged goodbye and we left, and that was it. And so we're going back to our Airbnb, we're walking home, and I get a DM from him. And he said, it was so nice meeting you. I hope it's not the last time. Also, South Africa is happening. I can see it. And the reason why he said that was because I was telling him that I had wanted to go to South Africa for that following Christmas, and because my family was going to be traveling. And he said, I've always dreamt of going to South Africa. And I jokingly was like, well, you're invited if you want to come. And so whenever he made that comment to me in the DM, I was like, okay, sure. I am not thinking anything of it, right? At this point, whatever, like this guy lives 5,000 miles away from me. I'm not thinking anything of it. So the next day, my friend goes back to Germany and I go to Barcelona to meet up with some friends. And again, I'm like posting throughout my trip, and every time I look at my phone, it's like he's DMing me, messaging me, and he's continuing all of this. And I'm just a little bit shocked, but also like very interested still at the same time. And he was remembering things that I told him at dinner. Like I had told him that I was gonna buy a Chanel bag because I wanted to reward myself for working hard. And he had messaged me and been like, hey, did you get your Chanel bag? And I was literally like drunk off sangrias in my bikini and cover up in the Chanel store when I got that DM. And I sent him a selfie and he said, this is the best photo I've ever seen. And I just like felt like I could just be myself with him already. And you know, we were just getting along and having good conversation. So again, he doesn't even have my phone number at this point. We were literally just flirting through DMs. So I end up leaving Barcelona the next day, and I land, and he sends me a message and he said, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to go to Ibiza? And I saw the message and I was like, what? And we will continue in part 2.
We would never be here if this man, I'm afraid Onyeka lied to all of you and you fell for it. At least by omission, at the very least. She forgot to tell y'all one very important detail, which is she wanted mixed babies and her mom and dad wanted mixed grandbabies. But you had on blue eyes and blonde hair colored shades, so that's all you could see is the genetics. You were like, oh, these genetics are gonna eat down. $5,000? Not a problem. The genetics are gonna eat. And your mom and dad were like, oh, are you both grandbabies are coming? Or you both grandbabies are coming in the house. Are you daft? Are you taking a piss, fam? What do you mean? You sent that man your passport details. Are you mad? And if you're not Nigerian, Ghanaian, African, like, you may need to sit out in the comments and let the Africans explain to you what I'm talking about. Because what do you mean your mom and dad were offering to pay for the traditional and this and that and that and the third? Typically, the bride's family is not forking up a motherfucking dime for a wedding. And don't insert Temi or $10. Don't talk about rich people. That's different. Like, my daughter's gonna have what they have different. Typically, the groom is showing up with a dowry. You're paying my dad for raising me, my mom for taking care of me, all that stuff. You're paying my cousins for playing with me. You're paying my uncles for... You're paying people just to take me out the home. Like, you're taking the prize out of the home, so you're paying. In no world is anybody from the bride's family paying for a canopy, a plastic chair, a schnapp, a goat, nothing. The bride's family is not forking up a dime. So the fact that her mom and dad were willing to pay for whatever crazy work, okay? Also, we would never be here if this man was black, African, person of color, whatever, because you would have never lent him $1, let alone 5, 10, 15, 20,000, 30, however much you ended up loaning him. A black man would have never been brave enough to go ask your friends, husbands and stuff for money. They most especially wouldn't have given it to him. I'm not even making this up. I don't know this girl from Adam, never met her, and I dare her to come on here and say I'm lying. If this man was black, if this man was African, if this man was from your damn tribe, from your same village, we wouldn't be here because you wouldn't even look at him, let alone send your passport fucking details. What do you mean? You know why you really lost me? When you had the nerve to talk about something, you were going to the village and he was packing a Rolex watch and you were like, do you know where you're going? We're going to the village. They're going to rob you. Oh, whoa. Now you're trying to stop the hustle of your people. I'm kidding. Now, they definitely would have robbed his ass. But the reason he was bringing that watch is he knew it wasn't motherfucking real. But honestly, though, yeah, just say you wanted mixed babies and we will let it go. But you coming on here. Oh, and I have the nerve to talk about something. I took his passport so he couldn't leave, huh? I see you posting about you finally left him and you have peace. No, my love, he left you. How he leave you? Also, very brave of you to be taking trips when you owe somebody money. People are like, oh, she's an African. How did it? Because she's not an African. She's an Africant. Every time I saw you tuck your braids behind your ears, I knew what time it was. Crypto and Kryptonisha, you could have never been in the living room talking about, oh my God, we're going to fix it. If that was a black man, you would have detached. You would have removed yourself from the situation. I don't know how you came to the conclusion of royal title and $400,000 pay. My sister, if somebody has a $400,000 paying job, they don't borrow $3,000 from you. Hello? Amen? The family is rich. The family is rich. Royal titles. Oh, he kept showing me screenshots and emails. You ever heard of Fiverr? You ever heard of Canva? You ever heard of any type of editing app, tool, PixArt? Email, girl, I could create an email right now. Esquire, who, JD from who. Send over an email. Yeah. Tax document, this, that. That's what you saw? How was the apartment that you Googled that wasn't his apartment already not sending you in the deep end? Oh, he's gonna sell the 2 apartments in Copenhagen. They don't exist, my love. The business account doesn't exist. And after all that, he left you? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
The Danish Deception Part 2. Okay. So he sent me this message saying, you should come to Ibiza this weekend. I'm going with a bunch of friends. And he's like, I'll send you the flight. Everything will be paid for. And I thought about it for a second because, come on, who wouldn't want to go to Ibiza? And then I thought a couple of reasons why I didn't want to go was mainly because I just bought a Chanel bag. So I was like, I want to work and make more money. And also I felt like this is the type of guy that things come easy for him. And this is not something that's going to be easy for you to obtain. And I didn't want our first weekend to be like just partying together with all of his friends. Like, that's not what I wanted. So I ended up telling him no, but I just ended up saying that I needed to work. And I thought he was never going to talk to me again. But somehow this like lit a fire under him and he became even more persistent and he started pursuing me even more. And he was sending me messages like, when are you going to come visit me in Copenhagen? Or I would love to come to Dallas to come see you. And I was just like, who is this man and what's happening? still not really taking him serious. And then maybe like a couple weeks later, he sends me another message. And at this point, we're still talking pretty consistently on Instagram. We still do not have each other's numbers. And he sends me a message. He says, hey, I have a work conference coming up in Monaco, and I would love for you to come. And I read that message and I was like near the south of France, like that Monaco? And he was like, yeah, like I can get you your flight and everything will be taken care of. And I was like, okay, well, give me some time to think about it, because I didn't want to say yes on the spot, but I was like, okay, this is something I definitely want to consider. So I thought about it for a while. I talked to my friends about it. I talked to my sisters about it. At first I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. Like, this is crazy. And then over time I started like talking myself into it. And then one morning I woke up and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go to Monaco. So I sent him a message and I said, hey, I've decided I'm going to come to Monaco. And he sends me a message. He said, this is the best day ever. I'm so happy. Send me your passport and everything. I'll book the flight. So I sent him a picture of my passport. And I also was like, oh, and by the way, here's my phone number. He was like, I've been waiting for you to give this to me for now like weeks. And I said, okay, here you go. Thank you for like inviting me on this trip. So I give him my phone number and he sends me a message and he said, it took you long enough. And I said, oh yeah, well, sorry. I'm just a little bit more reserved when it comes to like dating and men. Like, I just like to make sure like I'm a very intentional person. And he was just so respectful to me. I remember when he was booking the flights and everything, he was like, don't worry, like I'll get you your own hotel room. Like, he was just being so respectful. And so I remember our very first phone call so perfectly because it came completely out of the blue. It was like on like a Tuesday and I'm sitting at my work desk and he sends me a message. He's like, can I call you? And I was like, oh, he wants to call me. And I'm literally discombobulated, freaking out. Like, what am I going to do when this man actually calls me? But I was like, you need to get together. So he calls me, I answer the phone, and he's actually in a cab to the airport. He's about to go on a work trip. And we were just small talking about our day. And I felt like those like butterflies that I felt whenever we had been together at dinner in Croatia. And I remember getting off the phone with him and I was just sitting there like cheesing, like, which I don't ever do. And I was just, this guy is special. And he sent me a message and he was like, you are so cute. Like, I love talking to you. And I said, I love talking to you too. And so basically from that moment on, we just started talking on the phone all the time, like for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. We started talking about a lot of things, about a lot of different aspects of our lives. He was telling me that, he was living in Copenhagen. He was living in this condo. Obviously, he knew that I lived in Dallas. And then we started talking about past relationships. And I told him, I was very honest. I said, I actually haven't had like a truly serious relationship before. I have always been a very independent person, but I do want to meet someone. I do want to like get married and have kids, but I don't feel like that pressure to like force it. Like, I have such a great example with my parents, and I really want to have like an amazing love in this lifetime. And so I'm going to take my time to find that. And I asked him, like, what's your history with your dating? And he was like, yeah, well, I actually was in a relationship with a girl and we were together for about 4 years. And I actually broke up with her about 4 months before I met you. And I said, oh my gosh, like the 4 years is a long time. He said, yeah, like it needed to happen for a while. And really what happened was that she told him that she was ready to have kids and he wasn't ready to have kids. And I guess that forced him to realize that she wasn't the one, and they were living together. So it was like a really hard situation to get out of, but he finally was able to do so. And so I was happy to hear that had been about 4 months since they broke up, because if he had said like they had just broken up, I would have been a little bit more hesitant to pursue things, because I know like you go through a breakup, you need time to heal. But I felt like, okay, 4 months should be enough time. And then we started talking about like our families a little bit too. I told him I'm super close with my family. He said, I'm really close with my mom and my little sister. I do have an older sister that I don't talk to. And basically something happened and she was like being like physically abusive verbally, physically abusive towards his mom, and he decided to cut her out of his life because she's crazy. And I said, listen, I get that. That makes sense. Like, you should not have her in your life. And I think just like over the course of a month, we're talking on the phone for just hours. And I tell people all the time that it felt like we fell in love over the phone, because from the time that I had decided to go to Monaco to the time that I actually left for Monaco, it was a month. And we had this plan that we weren't going to FaceTime at all, because we wanted the next time we saw each other to be in person, which I thought at the time was super romantic. And so, you know, we started talking about like hypotheticals. I remember he told me one day, he said, you know, if we ever end up getting married, you're going to meet the queen. And I remember just like laughing at that comment. And he said, no, I'm being serious. And I said, what do you mean I'll meet the queen? And he said, well, you know, my family has a royal title. And I was like, wait, what? And he sent me this link to this site. It's called the Order of the Elephants. And he said, you can do some research and then we can talk about it. And I said, okay. So I start going through the page that he sent me, and I see someone that had the same last name as him, like some old guy from like the 1700s. And I remember taking a screenshot and I said, is this your great great grandpa? And he goes, now you're getting on track. My next question to you is, how's your etiquette? And I was like, I mean, I think it's okay. And so I'm sitting here like, who is this man? He's attractive. He has a great job. He has a royal title. Like, is there anything wrong with him at this point? And I have always believed in the term, it's too good to be true. But I mean, and I was feeling that 100%. Like, I felt like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? But it didn't drop that first month. It was just like, we truly fell in love over the phone. And so we are getting closer and closer to the trip to Monaco, and I start packing, and I feel like that's like when the nerves start hitting me, was when I'm packing, like, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. And I remember my sister was like, you need to put air tags in like all your bags. And I'm like, I don't need to put air tags in anything. Like, I trust this man. Like, I know like it's gonna be okay. Like, every part of me felt like so safe with him already, which was crazy because I hadn't really spent much time with him. Maybe this is trauma from being on The Bachelor, I'm not sure. But I felt very safe with him. And so the day comes where I'm supposed to go on the trip. And so I order my Uber, get to the airport, and I felt like it was kind of like a good sign, because I posted that I was at DFW, and one of my really good girlfriends texted me that lives in a different state. She was like, hey, I'm actually in DFW too. And I was like, oh my gosh. So she comes, meets me at my terminal. She's like, where are you going? I go, I'm actually going to Monaco to meet this guy that I met in Croatia. And she was like, this is insane. And so I just felt like seeing that friend was like a good sign. I don't know why. And I ended up just boarding the flight. I remember boarding that first flight. I had a layover in Madrid, but boarding that first flight, I was sitting there and I was like, this shit is really happening. And all the nerves are just taking over, but I'm like, take a chill pill. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna get there. It's gonna be fine. And at that point, I was like, okay, the worst thing that happens is like, he's a crazy person and I have enough money where I can like just book my own hotel and I'll just have a good time by myself. Like, it'll be fine. So I like had that backup plan. But yeah, I had my layover in Madrid, and then my next flight was to Nice. And so I board my flight to Nice. It was like a really quick flight, and I get to Nice, I land, I get my bags and baggage claim. I sent him a text. I said, I'm here. And I'm rolling both of my bags, about to walk out, freaking out, and let's continue on in part 3.
It should never have been called the Danish Deception. It should have been called the Desperate American. Sorry, I said it. It should have been called the woman who was so desperate to marry that she ignored 857,000 red flags, gave away her entire life savings, and then begged the man to stay with her after he robbed her and tried to flee the country, and then offered to drive him his passport. It should have been called the woman who sensed a tiny little bit of money in a man she met while traveling, so hung the fuck on for dear life until he drained her and her family's entire savings accounts. Like, it should have been called the woman who, when she was on the bones of her ass and had not $2 to rub together, traveled halfway around the world with a man who robbed her. That's what it should have been called.
About $300,000 is how much Bachelor alum Onyeka is saying that she, her family, her closest friends, and even a colleague were all scammed out of by one man. Man she once believed was her soulmate. His name? Martin Fursgaard Anderson. A charming blonde 6'3" real estate mogul who claimed he had royal ties, a booming tech business, and wealth that would one day be theirs to share. Instead, Onyeka was left with years of trauma and coming to TikTok to tell her story, which she calls the Danish Deception. It's a 26-part story, which she says began in June of 2022 when she decided to take a trip with her friend to Croatia. It was at a beach club when she noticed Martin immediately, and that was when he decided to approach her. He was confident, their chemistry was magnetic, and there was an instant spark. They exchanged social media, and she saw him one more time before returning to the US, but it wasn't the last time she heard from him. He messaged her constantly, invited her to come party with him in Ibiza, and then eventually convinced her to join him for a work trip in Monaco. After a month of talking over the phone, she agreed and he flew her out, paid for the hotel and her flight. In Monaco, he was everything he had promised, charismatic, adored, and effortlessly networking in real estate circles. After that, he whisked her to St. Tropez, paid for a $2,000 a night hotel, and offered to buy her whatever she wanted. She said she never wanted him to think that she was only there for his money, so she didn't let him buy her all these extravagant gifts. Instead, she opted for a $200 sunglasses. She fell hard for the first time in her life, telling him over a loud dinner that she was in love with him. Nights later, she collapses in a restaurant on the way to the bathroom and is eventually taken to the hospital, to which at that point he tells her he's falling in love with her too. Back home, the romance intensifies. He meets her friends, her family, and he fits right in. He flies to see her often, and then money requests begin. There are so many details to this story, but at some point he convinces her that he's buying properties. His money is tied up, that the IRS has a hold on not only his personal, but his business account. He lent him $6,000, then more and more. All while planning a life together in the US, they get married, he's applying for a visa, and eventually gets a green card. At this point, the cracks are forming. She's visiting his family in Denmark, and things aren't matching what he's telling her. After getting married, she finds out from his friend that he has a severe gambling addiction, one that he's been battling for over a decade. Later finds out that he had borrowed $200,000 from her friend's husband that he hadn't paid back. Relationship is going up and down. He convinces her that that's in the past, and later she finds out that he has been borrowing money from a lot of people in her life. Tens of thousands of dollars from one person to another, $3,000 from her little sister. Every loan came with its own set of lies. Every time she would confront him, there were so many excuses until one day he had no excuse left to give, and so he asked for a divorce. Only when he left did she realize the magnitude of it all, from exes to cheating to gambling to lies to manipulation. She is now sharing her story, and while she did not give his name or his photos, the internet did its thing, and I decided to share it as well because people need to know about this man. There's of course so much more that I left out, and I highly recommend watching this 26-part, which I did tag in my.
Y'all, please don't beat me up when I say this, but the man from Denmark was also a victim, whether he knew it or not. And let me tell you why. I have seen it too many times where a beautiful, intelligent Black woman will intentionally cling herself to a white man to push a social agenda. The agenda is to feel more accepted by most of your friends that are white. The agenda is to feel accepted by your white coworkers when you are navigating the corporate space. And it is to have more of a seamless check-in when you're walking into the hotel lobby because you are on the arm of a white man. It is no different from when white women openly say that, you know, I want to marry a Black man so we can have beautiful mixed babies with curly hair. And ultimately, it's a fetish, and that person is being used. I have seen it in pageantry so many times where beautiful Black women would be dating white men. Not that anything is wrong with dating white men or interracial couples. I come from an interracial couple. My mom is Black and my dad is Puerto Rican and Cuban. I would always wonder, like, you know, why aren't you like dating Black men? I realized it was because you are confined in a space that you really want to succeed in, and it is historically not for Black women. So you dangle your white boyfriend or your white husband to feel accepted by the same community that suppressed us. I am actually sad for the situation. It is a very sad story if it is completely truthful, but you had this fairy tale story that you wanted to be true so bad to flaunt. And it's just sad because I know if that was a black man saying that he was a prince, a Olympian, a rich man coming from a wealthy family, he wouldn't have gotten a penny from you. I am all for people like genuinely just falling in love. We shouldn't be using our partners as a prop. It never works out that way.
What's special about this?
So we've all seen the Danish Deception by now, and I haven't said a word because I make it a point not to speak on or about black women because it is not my place, right? But her latest video talking about how shocked she is that the black community is not supporting her, I mean, I just cannot shut up anymore. So we've all seen the Danish Deception by now, and I haven't said a word because I make it a point not to speak on or about black women because it is not my place, right? But her latest video talking about how shocked she is that the black community is not supporting her, I mean, I just cannot shut up anymore and I have to say something. What you don't understand is that the reason that the black community is not supporting you is because had this dude been black, okay, you and your friends that gave him money would never have been in this situation. If this dude were black, the second that he told you that he was in the Olympics, you would have Googled that shit. The second that he told you that he was royalty, you would have like, I don't know about that. Let me Google it. The second that you went to his mama's house and it didn't match the home that you expected of a royal person, those would have been huge red flags to you as to, is this guy telling me the truth? If he were black, you would have done all those things. The reason that you didn't do all those things is because this was a tall white dude that looked like Thor. And you were so enchanted by him and so happy that you had this big white dude in love with you that you didn't want to see the red flag. So miss me with that nonsense that the community that you would have been so prejudiced against had this dude been black all of a sudden is not supporting you. Yeah, they're not going to support you because the reason you're in this situation is because this dude is white and this is what you wanted for your life and this was your dream. Had he been black, you wouldn't be here and you know